For this project, we will be taking a total of 5 plants and observing their reaction toward light. This reaction consists of many factors. The general name for this reaction is called phototropism. Phototropism's dictionary definition is the orientation of a plant or other organism in response to light, either toward the source or away from that source. What does phototropism deal with? It deals with the growth of plants in response to light. Plants will grow in the direction that the light is, or will grow in the opposite direction. This is determined through the plant's ability to sense that light. A molecule called photoreceptors that are made up of proteins called chromophores change shape when they absorb light. The central photoreceptors that are responsible in detecting light are phototrophins that are also made up of that same protein as the photoreceptors. How is the auxin related to this? Phototrophins absorb light and activate a hormone called the auxin. When one side of the plant receives more light than the other, the auxin is distributed unevenly. On the shady side, there is more auxin being distributed than on the sunny side. Auxin can be defined as a hormone that causes cell elongation, making the plant grow on the shady side, thus bending toward the side where the sun is. The big question for this experiment is, can different angles of light exposure affect the angle or slant of a plant's growth? Well, we hypothesized that if a plant receives light from the side, then the plant's stem will slant towards the light because of the diffusion of auxin, the plant hormone, away from the light into the shaded area of the plant, allowing the cells to grow faster and the elongation of the plant stem. The cells will grow faster because of the high amount of auxin in the shaded area of the plant. The constants in this experiment are the type of plant, the amount of water, the type of soil, the amount of soil in the container, the size of the containers, and the room temp. The independent variable would be the plants exposed to light, and the dependent variable would be the slant of the plant. We will keep track of the growth and slant of 5 plants. Therefore, there will be 5 trials. The materials are as follows: 5 small paper containers, 5 sunflower seeds, potting soil, a light source, and a box for the control group. The procedures are as follows. 1. Grab the 5 paper bowls and poke 6 holes at the bottom. Fill each bowl with potting soil, about 1 inch in each. Label the bowls A through E. 2. Place 1 sunflower seed in each bowl and push it till the seed is in the middle. Then, water the soil and add moisture. 3. Place plants by window, where the light will hit the side of the bowl that is labeled. 4. Water the plants every day for 8 days and record the movement of the plants each day. Once D has sprouted, place in box. It will be the control group.
The first plant to sprout was plant B, then plant D, and plant E. Plant D sprouted 2 days after plant B. Plant E started to peak 1 day after plant D, and then broke the surface after 2 days of plant D's sprouting. The trend seen from the observation is that the stem broke the surface first, then fully emerged a day later. The plant's cotyledons opened first before there was any visible curve in the stem towards the light. Another trend is seen in the number of days between each plant sprouting for plants B, D, and E. Plant B was the first to curve towards the light, showing that auxin is moving to the shaded side of the plant and the stems curve, causing the plant's stem to elongate. Plant B also fell in the direction of the light and continued to grow and curve its stem towards the light. 3 out of 5 plants grew in the 8 days of this experiment.
The hypothesis for this experiment was not supported in the experiment because there was not sufficient amount of data collected. Data needed to be collected quantitatively by measuring the height of the stem each day after the plant had sprouted. A chi-square test could have been used to see the null hypothesis was accepted or rejected, and there was no significant difference or significant event to occur. The lack of quantitative data is because there was only observational data collected in the form of pictures. To make the experiment better, data would be needed to collect it over 4 weeks instead of 1 week. The plants did not grow in the expected time of the 3 to 5 days. Instead, we started seeing growth in the 8 days.
Post-lab question number 1. Auxin is the hormone responsible for the rapid elongation of cells and phototropism. It is found in the embryo of seeds and young leaves. Its function is to stimulate stem elongation, root growth, and branching. Post-lab question number 2. Auxin is produced in the stem, specifically the stem's tip and root tips. The cell wall allows for the cell's expansive or elongative response to auxin. The cells in the plant are elongated. They move towards the source of light. This happens because auxin diffuses to the shaded side of the plant stem, which will cause the cells to grow longer. The acid growth hypothesis states that proton pumps play a role in the growth response of cells to auxin. The auxin increases proton pump activity, causing the cell wall to become more acidic. The pH levels fall as a result, causing the hydrogen bonds in cellulose fibers to break apart, giving way to a more flexible and expandable cell wall. Water will then diffuse into the cell. Thus, the cell will elongate in size. Post-lab question 3. The Smarty Pants connection. The Smarty Pants podcast discussed the possibility of plants learning and how a plant can learn when a brain and nervous system are both absent. The podcast begins with the story of a tree's roots that grew towards a dry pipe with water. This discovery brought to question why the roots moved in the direction of the pipe with water and not the other side. How does the plant know where the water is? Is it the sound of water the reason for the plant's roots movement? And how do plants hear the sound of water? Monica Gagliano, a scientist, developed 3 experiments to understand the concept of a plant's learning ability or capabilities. Gagliano designed the first experiment to test the scenario of roots moving towards the pipe with water or the dry pipe. And she then modified the experiment to see the movement of the plants to the sound of water or no sound. The results of this experiment that applied a selection pressure on the plant's roots to choose water or a dry pipe were that the roots went towards the water pipe that had no excess water around it, and when given the option of the water sound and no sound, the roots went towards the sound of water. How can the plants hear the sound? From what could be gathered, it is possible that plants have become adjusted to the sound of water because water is an essential resource plants need to survive. Plants have learned the sound of water because it goes hand in hand with that of the resource, water. Compared to Pavlov's dog conditioning experiment, Gagliano was able to adjust a plant to the sound of a fan and actually have the plant move towards the fan because she turned the fan on, then turned a light on, which we know that plants need just like water, and they will move towards it, resulting in a lean in the plant stem to the direction of the light. Well, by following the patterns of a fan on, then turning the light on, the plant began to anticipate when the fan turns on, the light will turn on too. So the plant would just move towards the fan in anticipation, just like Pavlov's dogs that salivated ultimately with just the sound of the bell. Can plants see the sun? Many people say no, because the plants are reacting from the source of light, the light energy. The sunlight is the plant's energy source, so it can break down carbon dioxide and water to produce oxygen and carbohydrates, glucose. In this experiment, the plant's auxin hormone is known to be produced on the tip of the stem, and when light hits the plant, auxin moves to the shaded side of the plant, elongating the stem to bend in the direction of the light. Monica Gagliano's experiment provides another possible explanation as to why the plants lean towards the sunlight. Plants have learned through hormonal reactions that a light source will benefit them, will provide them the ability to do the processes they need to survive. And as auxin moves down the stem of the plant, the cells will continue to elongate toward the light in order to get what they need.
One relationship that our experiment about phototropism has to the podcast From Tree to Shining Tree is the experiment that was ran by the scientists in the podcast involving the plants and their sharing of the food and how they didn't have to compete in order to reach the sunlight. It relates to our experiment because in phototropism, a plant will grow up toward the sun, but in this case, these plants did not.